So the definition of gambling, the dictionary definition is wagering one thing of value for another thing of value, but the legal definition is if you have anything to lose, then it's gambling. So that's why gambling isn't considered, loot boxes aren't considered gambling, because you don't actually lose anything. So,
Yeah.
how do you feel about that? What do you think of that?
It's hard to say, really. It's like,
Mm.
personally, I think any sort of gambling, especially single player games, isn't real good.
Someone's ready.
Just
Yeah.
for the reason
Alright.
that
So, how do you feel about it being in single player games then? Yeah, you fucked me up. How do you feel about loot boxes being in single player games?
not real good. No, I don't think it's really there. I think you're enjoying that game on your own. You don't,
Mm.
you know what I mean? I'd
Like it
separate those
affects the
things. I don't see
whole
how.
fucking game. Takes out the immersion.
Yeah,
And we were talking about this before. You said that you think it would affect the future of games, and it would be in everything, including all single player games. Right?
yeah. I think like I'm a bit older than that, so I've seen the evolution of a lot of this. But these young fellas, and a big percentage of the gaming industry is kids.
Mm.
They're not going to see the difference. They're not going to know anything. All they're going to see, if this keeps going on and we keep pushing so far that way into our gaming, that they're not going to know any different. They're going to think it's strange. In the end, in 5 or 10 years, it's going to be like they're going to think it's going to be strange if you don't have gambling, if you don't have
Yeah.
these things in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as you say that, I just came from the game store after pre-ordering a game that I actually really liked, Dark Souls. I don't know if you've heard of it. It doesn't matter if you haven't. But
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
it's a AAA game, right? And I went to pre-order it, but I've looked around. They're not advertising at the pre-order. They're not showing off different special editions. You can't even get any special editions. The only way, like, you can only pre-order the game itself. You can't buy it with a special helmet or costume or anything like that. You buy it as is,
Yeah.
and it's been since fucking ever since they released the PS3. All AAA games that I can think of or know of have always had pre-orders for special editions and shit. They usually have a 2 or 3 that you can pick from, or more. So the fact that this one doesn't, it's like, is this actually the first game that hasn't had special editions? Like, I'm surprised that I'm
Yeah.
actually like, holy shit, there's a AAA game that doesn't actually have microtransactions or anything, even though it's just a remaking of another old game. But yeah, I'm really surprised by that one. And I'm not sure
Yeah,
if
that they've actually still. Hey,
go on. You were gonna say something?
no,
They
keep
still,
talking. When
yeah,
you
I'm
said
not.
you're surprised in the way of that, they're actually not trying to.
Mm.
They're
I
not trying
remember.
to. They're just putting the game out.
Yeah, I remember a statement that we talk about this now from Monster Hunters, where they talk about because it's so controversial, the topic of loot boxes, that a AAA dev, the Monster Hunters, actually was asked about their loot, because you kill monsters in the game, you hunt them, right, and then you get an RNG drop
Yeah.
from them. So they were asked, why
Yeah.
don't you turn this into a loot box system? Why haven't you done this? And they said, because it devalues the entire game. The whole premise of the game is hunting monsters and getting the loot from it. So to put loot boxes in it, it would devalue the game. So that actually has earned them a lot of reputation from the community, and people were willing to buy the game just because they spoke out against loot boxes. So while I do agree, it will definitely be around. It will definitely be prominent, even in single player games, sadly. Hopefully, at least the controversy will eventually affect the single player, because it could go either way. But you might be wrong, is what I'm saying, and I hope you are. Honestly, I really hope you are wrong there with single player, like loot
That it will
boxes being
become
in
just
every
a
game.
norm. They won't even.
Yeah, and that's what I'm scared of. That's honestly what I'm scared of with this topic. Um, but anyway, the next
Well, I
thing
think it's
is,
seeping in one way or the other. Like
mm,
Meg, it's coming in one way or the other. Like I love my, like I said, Fallout and Skyrim, Bethesda
mm,
games. But I
yeah,
mean, Bethesda started Creation Club now, you know what I mean? So in
yeah,
their
yeah,
own way,
yeah,
you know
it's
what I mean?
certainly seeping
And then
in.
I'm realizing, well, that's a form of what's going on. Bethesda's actually done it already because
Yeah,
they've got paid mods, you buy your mods now, and they're all
yeah,
good things. I mean, but it's still going down this way where instead of paying you one set amount, there's your game, you play your game, you enjoy it. They want to keep continuously be able to, and I can see their side as well. I can see what they want. That's in some ways I can see
yeah.
they spend a
Businesses
lot of years
exist
to
to
produce a lot of these good
profit.
games.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. But
But
still, I think so. There's a wide span there, from say a Creation Club of Bethesda to where EA went with Battlefield, to basically paying to win, pay to win sort of game.
yeah, and people don't like that because they're already paying the full price to get this game, so they don't want those stupid mechanics in the game. I mean, it's fine when you're not actually paying for the game on standard, which makes sense for why they actually don't earn enough from the game, which is another topic we'll talk about later. But getting to the next topic, they say a statement that is for loot boxes. They say is we included this as just a player choice, a way of avoiding the grind. What do you think of that?
No, no. That's I mean, that to me that's ridiculous because
Absolutely.
if you're like me, I mean, one of the biggest things of a game is the grind. I don't know how many games I've played something like a Skyrim, and spent hours and hours and
Absolutely.
grinded my levels up before I even start to enjoy my game. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And that's what the buzz was for me is to grind a game out,
yeah.
which is a bit boring to me. It does get boring. I mean,
Oh
I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
the old days of like Oblivion and that, where you could kill crabs. You could go around and run around and kill the crabs and and level up. And I'd spend days on that
Dude,
game
in Oblivion you could
killing
jump
crabs
and
and
I
doing
got fucking levels. I was just jumping and it's like stat up, jump up. Like there was a stat for
yeah,
jumping or some
yeah,
shit. I'm like, what the
jumping and
fuck?
jumping everywhere, doing all these things,
Uh,
and the grind paid out. And because in the end you had control of your game. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's how you got control of your game was through this grinding, which was, if I look back on my good memories, it's that grinding, and and that's what's another bad thing. These young ones are going to lose out on that. They're not going to understand the enjoyment of grinding a game out, and that's what, in
Yeah.
my opinion, mate.
Yeah,
Like I
that's a
said, if they
good
keep it
point.
up, they're not even going to realise.
But another point I want to bring up is they say it's for player choice that you just choose whether or not you want loot boxes. But as a point that Jim Sterling brought up is how about gamblers? Gamblers that are just like trying to get over their addiction. They pick up a game like Star Wars Battlefront because they're fans of the Star Wars franchise and like, yeah, I want to play this. I want to check it out. And they see these loot boxes, the free ones, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll try this. And do you really think they have a choice in like saying no to these loot boxes? Do you really think they put it in because they have the choice, those gamblers?
That's right.
Like,
And now we're going to get into actual what's going on here, because the gambling is what happens with gambling. It's an addiction,
mm,
and that's what's wrong. It's an
and they
addiction.
hold no
So these what's happening is
responsibility,
you
you know, these producers.
there's consequences to gambling.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's the whole point of it. That's what has to be
But
made
consider,
understood to these big
yeah, but
companies
because it's
is
not gambling, they hold no responsibility, you know. You can't take them to court or anything. They don't have to tell you about the 12-step program to help you recover or anything like that.
spot
It's,
on. That's what I'm talking about, like
yeah,
rehab. That's aimed exactly. You said exactly what I was thinking in my mind was, with this gambling, there's addictions and people end up, and it's worse than drugs and alcohol in there. And I've seen it.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen people, and I've been in these places, and I've seen the worst people in those rehabs are the gamblers. They're fucked. They lose everything. The
Mm,
people still support people on drugs and alcohol, and they get them through. But I've seen stories of gamblers selling their family because they're so addicted to gambling, you know what I mean? And that's when I realised how bad gambling was, you know.
Yeah,
And in
because
the
you can
end,
be addicted to anything, but gambling is one of the most recognized ones for things to be addicted to, you know, other than drugs.
no question.
Which is why the public has really noticed this one, because it's just straight up fucking gambling.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, mate, I'm just watching that game at the moment.
Yeah, it's fine.
Just getting my.
So
Are you still in the game? Oh, fuck, I'm gone
no,
here.
no, I died ages ago,
Sorry,
dude.
sorry,
I pretty
you have
much
to edit that
landed
out.
and got shotted. But anyway, topic 3, RNG. It feels rewarding opening these loot boxes. I remember, like these free ones and shit. Like you open it, you get something legendary, and you're like, oh, that feels rewarding. Yeah, I got the
Yeah,
legendary
exactly.
one.
That's the thing. Yeah, no question. Yeah, keep going. No, that's
Like,
right. It is rewarding.
like I
That's where
said
the
in my,
addiction.
because I've said most of these points, the ones that I brought up so far in my last video. With this one, it's just like RNG doesn't feel rewarding. I talked about that already, so I'm not going to get too much into it. RNG is random number generation. I know I messed up the end there for numerical, but it just means that you feel lucky. It does give off that real good feeling, which people get addicted to with gambling, because they always strive for that. You know,
Yeah,
with
the
those
old
motivational
dopamine.
speaks of like you fall down, and you just got to keep trying to get high, even though you're losing money, so you're always falling down. But which is half the problem. But you know, like if you want something that feels good, like even if you beat a boss or you do something incredible for one of the free loot boxes to get something from the shooters, like I said, it's still like you feel good for beating the boss. That's where the real reward comes from. It's not from getting the item. The item, it's like, I'm lucky to have gotten this one. But in this game, Fortnite for instance, the glider, you know how you beat the level and you always specifically get the glider, right? Whenever you've beaten,
Yeah.
you've beaten,
You earned it.
you've been the
Yeah,
first
you
fucking
earned that.
one. Yeah, exactly. You've earned it, and it's always that one specific item. So everyone who sees it knows exactly what you did. So when you go around gliding around the map, everyone sees it and like, that guy has won a match, or girl has won a match, and that gives you a sense of accomplishment that you can proudly
To me, that's the
show
heart
the
of gaming.
item,
That's the
and
heart of
you're
the
like,
whole thing.
I won it. Which, like you said with grinding, that's something that you earn. But RNG cuts it off by like, I mean, I like my loot and shooters, don't get me wrong. It's just like they don't have that with the items giving the sense of accomplishment, and loot boxes will never have that. So that's a pretty weak point, as previously stated. Alright, now another statement here I've got is from PUBG. Now, it's one that they actually said for PUBG, if you were talking the PC version, where you actually pay for, I don't know where we're jumping out, where you pay for, the loot boxes, right, even though you get the free ones. Everyone was asking, why do you only get 6 free ones each week, and why does the price always reset? So, and the reason was, like, they actually gave a statement, the creators of PUBG, and they said they only give 6 because then people would just be farming for free ones all the time, and the market sale, because they would be getting free ones so often, would drop in response, right? So they limited it to only 6, so people would want to keep paying to get more. So as I said in my previous video, I'm not sure if I said it actually, but the whole reason they make free loot boxes is so they keep paying for more, so they get addicted. So, like, they're more likely to buy them and shit. Because, you know, you hit that milestone, you just want to keep spending, and money doesn't matter. And with PUBG, they're practically presenting that argument for me. So, how do you feel about that? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I suppose we can use this game for Fortnite as well, like with the Battle Pass, you know what I mean, where it sucked me in, you know, I got it, now I want to get that highest level in the end, and I'll end up paying for it, which I don't really agree with, but I will do that because just I'm there now.
Well,
like,
this isn't
like with PUBG, like it,
yeah,
well,
this
that's the
isn't
point I'm
like
going to make is that.
Lootbox. Yeah, keep going.
No, well, that's the point I'm making. That what it's doing is it's basically it's setting your mind Instead of saying, I'm going to play my game, like the games you look forward to getting on and doing a bit of a grind and that, it's setting your mind structure in a different way from of the idea of actually just enjoying a game, and playing that game to,
Mm.
what I mean, it's basically changing the whole approach of the game, if you know what I mean, in the way of,
Yeah, yeah.
whereas I'd usually, like, you're going to get on the game and think, shit, I'm going to get a new loot box, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to try and bloody, whereas you would have said, oh, I want to try and, say, taking it a further way to another game, whereas you might want to say, I want to get, I'll use things like Fallout before other things because that's what I know, but I mean, I remember times I'd structure out games or other games, when I go, right, I want to be here today. It's going to take me ages to get across this map.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd actually structure a game. I'd have it. I know it's going to take me 12 fucking hours. It's going to take me 12 hours to get to this point where I want to actually get into this part of the game. You know what I mean? And
And you
that's
would
what I used to
actually be
enjoy.
progressing and seeing more
That I'd
content
work.
maybe.
I knew I'd spend a whole day. I'd spend a whole day in my gaming, just to set up for the part of gaming. For a boss or for a part that you really want to do. But that was the
Yeah,
grind. Even if not necessarily has to be grind, it could be that you would have to quest and you'd have to, you know what I mean? Whereas
yeah,
now
yeah.
with coming back to what you're talking about with PUBG and the way they've set up with loot crates and what they've done here is you're basically changing people's mindset of a game. They're going, yeah, and that's where you're starting to move into bad waters, in my opinion, mate. Yeah, if you know what I mean, Mags,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
starting to push to an area where you're changing, and I'm not saying they're not going to change my mindset. They probably won't change yours, but a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old kid, you know what I mean, that will never
Yeah.
get any real enjoyment out of a game because they think that all they have to do is see mum and be able to sort of get the next crate,
Absolutely.
without. So we're really right in the depth. To me, we're right in the middle of what we're talking about. But I mean, it's a lot more deeper than just one combo we can have now. But I mean, if we can touch on it, if anyone does listen and have their opinions, that's what this is about, mate.
Yeah, yeah. Of
It's
course, I love
you,
talking
you
about
know. But
this.
I mean, it is, and it is an important thing to talk about. Like, it is an important issue
Hmm. Anyway,
because well, just because it, these major companies have to be careful. Like, they've got a lot of influence, and it's like anything.
absolutely.
It's like Hollywood. It's the way
Oh
Hollywood's
yeah,
going off
yeah.
tap.
They've with GTA 5 actually. Another point I was gonna bring up is they actually have surpassed the earnings of Hollywood movies with GTA 5. So yeah, gaming is very much like as big as movies now. So absolutely, they have that much toll and power on people. Um,
Probably
now
even more now. Probably even more
yeah,
because
probably because they're engaging. You know, like they're
they're
very
fully
immersive,
engaging.
especially
Whereas a
with
lot of people
VR
go to
and
the
stuff.
movies with their friends. It's a thing to do.
Yeah, to
Whereas
just relax
doing
and
this with your
sit
friends
back.
in gaming, it's a lot.
Yeah, because
You
you're
know, you
practically
walk out of the movie
self-inserting
theater.
yourself. Yeah,
Yeah, mate. Yeah. As well as you watch a movie with your friends, and then you walk out of the theater, and that's it. Then you go and have go to McDonald's or whatever. But with this, you come back the next day, and you're
oh
back into
yeah,
that movie.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Basically, but the game, you know what I'm saying? So I think there's a lot more. I think that's why Hollywood's crumbling as well now, is because not just because of the fact that it's becoming so repetitious, but because people are moving. The young ones are moving towards this. They don't have to go.
Yeah, yeah.
They can have time
So,
with their friends now, but it's doing what we're doing right now. Playing a game.
mm, yeah. So another point. I don't know if you know about esports or anything. Do you know anything about
Yeah,
esports?
yeah.
You do? Okay.
Mega behind me, Mega.
All right. Yeah, but let's focus on the content. We're probably gonna focus on this
Yeah,
now.
yeah. I just said
So
that. Just
with esports, they have like loot boxes especially for them with signed gear from the team to promote
Yep.
certain microtransactions, which are just from the team and certain things like that. Like recently, Jim Sterling, the guy that I referenced before, He talks about microtransactions quite often. He talked about a recent $61,000 fucking signed sniper, which wasn't even properly signed because it's a freaking virtual item, right? That someone actually
Yeah.
ended up buying because it's signed by a really famous, one of the first esporters around, and they actually do loot boxes every time they have a game. They have a new loot box for the esports, like for CS:GO, for instance. They always have a new one, like the Hydra crate and so forth, which always end up costing more because usually loot boxes are like $2 for some of them are $5, some can go up to 15. These ones are like $40, $30, $40, some of them even hitting like $50 and $60. And it's just because in the content is always like signed gear by these people, which isn't even a proper signature, by the way. So what do you think of that, the impact that esports has on loot boxes?
Well, that's what's happening. That's what's going to go wrong. I mean, and people are paying these prices. That's what's wrong. People are paying it, and they do want that. And I can understand. You know, like I can see. I've got a collection myself. You know, I've got a collection
Yeah,
here at
everyone
home.
wants
You know,
some
like
gear of their fans or the people they admire, of course. I get that. I agree. I have
yeah. But
nothing
as you
wrong
said,
with these
what's going to
things.
go wrong is here. How much are they going to go to? How much?
Exactly.
You, you know, they're going to make millions and millions weekly off a game. They're going to produce it. That's what's.
And they don't
I
even
mean, is
have to
that?
do anything for the game. They just have to
That's exactly right.
randomize it, and people will be paying thousands for it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
for sure, mate. Like it.
anything against esports. I actually think esports is a nice way to connect the community and get people to recognize how good games are and make people more interested in older games and playing them, and it's just a really
Oh,
fun
they've evolved their
experience.
game.
I
You see their
love,
basketball
but
and yeah.
making these microtransactions isn't that good. Honestly, like the loot boxes one is just kind of extremely greedy to me and rather quite low, if you ask me. But
Yes. Sorry, mate. Yeah. No, it is greedy, and I mean, that's what the problem is, mate. I mean, how far is this going to go? Is that the future? Is it the future? You know,
yeah,
we're going to end up with like the way it's evolving with graphics now. Anyway, I mean, have a look at the graphics now. You remember the old days? You go back and look at this whole Xbox and PlayStation
I
games. You
remember.
know.
I have got the old PlayStation recently, actually, for the old Crash and for GTA San Andreas. Fuck yeah. Um,
Yeah, mate. Yeah, but but they're still enjoyable games. But you see all that now, and I mean, they don't have to do a hell of a lot. I mean, you also have to wonder where VR is going to fit in with all this as well. You know,
yeah,
are we going to
well,
get left behind? Even if you're only your age. I mean, in 10 years' time, if you're 30, you're going to be over the hill with this shit, and that's what the
yeah,
worry is. You know, I mean, I've evolved even more and seen over 30 years of gaming. You know, and
yeah,
watched it.
absolutely.
But I
That's
mean,
why
to a
everything
point where
looks
these
so.
young ones now, in 10 years' time, if you're not like areas in that, yeah, I don't know, just whether how healthy that is. Ah, shit, I thought I had that one. But no, it's a good point, and it just makes you wonder how far they can go with it all, mate. You know, how far they can where they're heading. I mean, it's a shame in a lot of ways
Mm,
that. Sorry, mate, I'm just changing that.
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's a shame to me because I have spent a lot of years. You know, I have got a lot more invested over years of watching gaming. To think that it could come down to, and all they have to worry about, it's to me, it's like say the Spice Girls or all this music where they aim at this Justin Bieber, where all they do is aim at 12-year-olds,
yeah.
because the next year, in a few years' time, when these kids grow up,
Far more
doesn't matter because
influential.
it's going to be a whole new batch. You know what I mean? Instead of evolving along with people,
Yeah, going to
if you know what
suck
I
them all
mean, like
down. Yeah, yeah, I
instead of
know what you
things
mean.
moving through and moving forward, they'll get to a point where they say it doesn't matter us, because there's going to be a whole other batch of kids coming through, and all we need is their money now. You know, gaming's important to me. Gaming means a lot to me. Like I said, I've got a massive collection here, you know, and it's mainly Fallout. But I've spent years. I'm addicted to that. That's my little addiction now. Is my collection, and I spent thousands. But I bought that Fallout board, you know, a snowboard for $800 last month. You know, just to add to my collection. You know, I've spent a lot of money on
Yeah, I
that. You
have
know,
nothing
and
wrong with what is it?
my point is about Omega is that's a part of gaming to me. I mean, I don't want it to. People have to enjoy it, and it's a part of my life. It's a lifestyle, if you know what I mean. People have lifestyles. They might do this or that. That's their lifestyle. Gaming's my lifestyle, and people mightn't understand that because I'm older now, and that. But I don't care because that's my lifestyle, mate. That's a part of my life, gaming.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have got a lot invested in, you know, as a lot of people, and
Not to cut you
I
off,
just
but
worry,
I
like
just
this
wanna say,
conversation we're having now, I just worry that,
yeah, not to cut you off, but they have actually talked about trying to bring the conversation to politicians and shit, which I think is really sketch. It's just a way to like ignore how bad the general public has already been talking about loot boxes, and their way of saying like, as long as we can convince this politician, it doesn't matter, it's going to keep happening, it's going to be perfectly fine. You know, because if we get that stronger support, then the general public doesn't matter. That's what I feel like.
yeah,
with
no,
them
exactly. I
trying
mean,
to
we've already
get
seen where
politicians
politically
to
correct's
support them.
taken us. It's rubbish.
Mm.
So, I mean,
And that's how
is there
bad it's
really a
getting,
need
that
to...
they're actually thinking of fucking talking to politicians about it. Like, guys, come on. Like, you don't need to earn money for microtransactions that
Yeah, are you
hard.
serious? I mean, these clowns can't even run the fucking country, so why do you want them involved in the issues?
Shit.
But,
That's a topic for another time.
yeah, we better leave that. I better leave
Yeah.
that alone. But no,
Yeah.
seriously, mate, you know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely. Alright, another one is, it costs too much to make, where a topic that they talk about and they use a lot to defend themselves, which is actually getting to a lot of people, is that games cost too much to make, that they're spending too much on AAA games to be able to earn a profit back. What do you think of that line? I mean, I've got a lot to
that's
say.
ridiculous in a lot of ways because it's a business. You got all these people, and how lucky they are, a lot of them, to be working within these big companies.
Absolutely.
So they're employing people. That they're making people a living. It's an industry.
Exactly.
To say they're not making enough money is a total joke for a start. I mean,
Okay, that's,
you know,
that's good to hear.
the money that
You're not blindsided
Yeah.
by that. There's a lot of people.
no,
just hear
no,
that
yeah,
number.
exactly. It's a, you know, people are you got so many people involved in the industry that work in the industry and they love it. How many places are there that you reckon that people enjoy the industry so much as gaming, you know, and being a part of it to make these great games? I mean, it's up to them how much they're going to spend on the game. I think,
Yeah, they.
you know,
Well, as my point was going to be like, well, for one, you don't have to spend that much on games. No, everyone's okay with having a game that's not as pretty as it could be, if it works better. Like my debate with Halo, which I know I haven't talked about on my channel or Twitch yet, but with Halo, they had a huge thought process of like, either Halo 5 looks really good, but it plays only on single player, no split screen, which is the whole appeal of Halo to many, many people, or you can have it as two people, but it looks slightly uglier. And guess what they opted for? One person on one console, where it looks slightly prettier. Didn't sell as well as they hoped. Anyway, another thing.
when you're
is-
saying that, say that again in what ways? Come back with that, Maggie. You suppose you can edit it. They, with the one person thing, what was that about?
Well, with Halo 5, they could either have made the game prettier, but because if they had it prettier, it wouldn't have run as good, or they could have had it run like really good on 2 players, and had it like slightly uglier than it could have been, which would have made the E3 trailer a lie to everyone, which was their biggest concern. Or they could have, had it prettier and just made it 1 player so it doesn't run like crap. And of course they chose to have it 1 player and make it not run like crap, so they weren't liars, which everyone hated because the whole appeal of Halo is the split screen.
Yeah.
So another point
Yeah.
is that I was gonna say with that is like, well, if you say that, like, you're bad at business if you don't know how to earn money from just selling the game on standard, because that's what you're supposed to be doing. That's what you are as a
That's
game
right.
development company.
So
So
look at
developers
No Man's
supporting
Sky.
it.
How will it go?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like No Man's Sky. You know,
Yeah,
that he
they were
sold it.
huge fucking liars. But
It was a shit. Not saying bad, but it was nothing of what he said it was. But they came out and he joined up with Sony. And you saw what they did.
mm,
With how many people bought the game, but I mean, how
yeah,
big a
you still turn
letdown
a
it was.
profit. Mm. It's easy as hell to turn a profit from a game. Like, that's a lie. And another thing is, if you say that it's not a lie or anything, if you say that I'm gonna be spreading misinformation for saying that, then it's like, okay, show me the numbers, show me how much you spent on the game, and show me how much you earn, so that you're not just spitting out random information, because they say that angry YouTubers are bloody spreading misinformation and trying to get this whole point for their argument is trying to appeal to our sympathy for, oh, poor devs, they aren't earning enough for working a couple years hard on a game, so they have to make microtransactions. Which to me, I'd say, I really like your game, buddy. I love games. I like to see your work. I really like seeing people passionate about their work hard and end up successful, of course. But your publishers, if you're defending them when they're putting loot boxes in, you gotta realize that they're devaluing everything you have worked hard on by putting these in your games. They're completely devaluing your work, and they're saying that in fact it's so bad that it's worth our money to buy to skip their content, to skip what they've worked hard on for years. And that's really disgusting for devs. I honestly feel bad for devs, but not enough to give them money to skip their content. I'd rather spend the time grinding on their content,
That's right.
Because
that's
like
and that's where they have to listen.
they're using them as
That's where
hostages,
they have to listen more to the people.
Because
Yeah, mate,
these
exactly.
these producers, they don't give a fuck about the dev team. They don't give a single fuck. Look at Visceral Games. Look at Pandemic Studios. You know what happened to them? With EA?
Yep.
Yeah, they
Yep,
pushed
just
all
pull
that
them
shit
out
on
and
them,
fucking
and as
just-
soon as things went slightly bad for them, they were just like, nah, fuck you. They pushed all that crap on them. They don't give a single fuck. They're all just about the money.
Exactly right, and that's where the gaming industry has to unite in a lot of ways. The big companies, and they have to weed out instead of trying to weed out YouTubers to have a voice about complaining about what's going wrong. Start weeding out the rubbish within the that make the games. And some of these companies that are just realizing there's a buck to be made, and by turning out,
Because the real
what I mean,
thing
and
is
sort
like
of
devs are attacking us, but it's like we're in the same ship. The devs and the consumers, they're the two people in the industry that are closest together. With producers, they care about the stock market. They don't care about us. They don't care about the dev teams. The producers are the ones that we aren't working with, that we're putting the finger and saying they're the bad people. It's not the fucking devs at all. It's the producers. And my last thing to talk about here is with microtransactions. If I think a microtransaction is bad, regardless of before or after loot boxes, I would still point a finger and say that's bad. I'm not just gonna say like, now that this has came out, because for instance, I was talking with a friend about Star Wars Battlefront, the first one, the remake one from EA. he was like, oh, that's absolute shit. It didn't have so many things. And then after the new one, of course, because he loved the game so much, he's like, you're talking to someone who hated the original, and they certainly made a lot of improvements. Yes, it's not as good as the old one, and it's like dramatically so. I could pick all day how much worse it is and how absurd it is. But he obviously knew that it was worse than that one, but it's like, because it's an improvement, I like it. And I'm saying, well, when you set the bar that low, it's easy to improve. When you're improving upon shit, it's still not something that I'm going to say that's acceptable. I'm still going to point the finger and say, no, that's bullshit. So when people look at loot boxes and are like, oh, well, this time they've made them free, I'm still going to point the finger and say, no, that's bullshit, you know? I'm not just going to say, well, it's slightly better. No, I'm still going to say, no, that's not okay, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly right. I mean, that goes with most things, isn't it? To come across like that, to have something at a low standard, and then to improve that low standard a little tiny bit.
Yeah, all it's doing is lowering your standards. Absolutely.
And you know what's wrong there? We're going back to where this is happening. Is these kids that don't know any better, you know, the 10 and 11-year-olds and that don't see that. They won't see that, although they won't understand how low a standard it is. And then when it does pep up a bit, they'll think the world of it. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
It's a big part of what we're talking about.
It's a love-hate relationship with the games, like, because you know, you play the game, for instance, with like Star Wars Battlefield. You play it like back when it was in 2005. And you're like, oh, it's a game I grew up with. I love Star Wars. I'm so fond of it. So, and then you build a connection to it. You know, you love that game. But then when they make a remake, you're like, oh, I've so got to get it, regardless of how bad it is. And then it's bad, and it's got these loot boxes, and you're like, I don't want to support it. Like, I feel this way for what is it, Shadow of War right now, where it's like, I love the game. I love the previous one, but I can't support loot boxes for the life of me. So, you know, you're conflicted because of the love-hate relationship you have.
Mate, I can give you the perfect example. As I told you, my number one's Fallout. I played, you know, Fallout 3, love New Vegas. I didn't enjoy Fallout 4, mate, you know what I mean? I didn't enjoy it. I played it, and it's still Fallout, but I'll admit it. You know, as a lot of people won't, I'll say that I didn't enjoy it as much. They changed too much for me, and they took it away, and there were certain things, and I hope they swing back in the next time.
Exactly.
But having said that, it's still my game. It's still my favourite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll still support it. You know, and I think that's what you're saying in a way, and you have to be careful of those things. But on the other hand of that, it was still a top game, you know, and it was still a lot of effort was put into Fallout, and they still did do a lot with it, you know, Fallout 4.
Oh yeah, Fallout 4.
So it's a bit different in a way of just handing out a totally rubbish game, you know, that
it's certainly
happened,
one
you know?
of the weaker numbers in the franchise, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll admit that, but I think, you know, that's what's, as you said, that's what's wrong. Once people have got support, it's like a football team, mate. It's like your footy team. If your football team's coming last in the comp, you still support them. Or most people will, you know what I mean? Like, you have your loyalty. And loyalty is a very powerful thing, you know, and that's this whole point of where we're at with this conversation is, you know, like there's the example of a footy team, you know, or a sports team, you know what I mean? If that's your team, even if they're losing, you're still there for them, you know? But this isn't sport, this isn't that thing, this isn't that philosophy. I mean, you have to be able to say, hey, look, that was rubbish, and it has to be seen as rubbish. And that is happening with Battlefield, and it's even happening with the movie, because the movie, and I won't say it was rubbish, but a lot of people that are even Star Wars supporters said that latest one's...
But yeah, I agree. It does play on.
Yeah, as I said, I don't want to go into it because I don't want to I don't want to offend anyone. But
I get what you're saying. It does play on the loyalty thing. Yeah.
Very much, you know, very much so. And Star Wars is a classic example. Such a massive following.
The term they use to refer to what you're talking about is nostalgia pandering. So they just really pan to the nostalgia. For sure. And they rely on that to sell the thing. is completely what EA has done, and yeah, I guess Disney said it, but I'm not going to get into that one again. Although I
Yeah,
kind of
no,
agree.
that's a whole different area. We'd need a few hours for that, Mega.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've touched that. It's been good to chat with you, mate. And
Yep.
you know, we've
Absolutely.
talked over a few issues. I mean, we've only touched on things, and that's all we can really do here, unless we've got 2 days, unless we've got an hour, you know, unless we'd have
Well,
10 hours
I
and
feel
even
like I've
more.
talked about all that I really wanted to and needed to, and yeah, I felt like this
Yeah,
was a good conversation. I felt like it did a lot. I've got some drinks here, and I'll stop the stream. I feel like we've done this